a millionaire faces a devastating sentence, paying $500 million to his pregnant ex-wife under the watchful eye of the press. But when a poor girl bursts into the courtroom with a crumpled envelope, everything stops. Its contents reveal an unimaginable betrayal and dismantles before the judge the biggest scam of the tycoon's life. From there, justice, redemption, and an unlikely connection forever change the fate of everyone involved. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The Manhattan courtroom buzzed with anticipation as Judge Eleanor Simmons prepared to deliver the final verdict in what the press had dubbed the divorce of the decade. At 62, Robert Blackwood, the real estate tycoon whose iconic skyscrapers defined the New York skyline, sat stoically beside his attorney, his weathered face betraying no emotion. Across the aisle, his soon-to-be ex-wife Vanessa, radiant at 38 and visibly pregnant, displayed a victorious smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The hushed whispers of reporters and spectators filled the room as Judge Simmons adjusted her glasses, preparing to announce the historic $500 million settlement that would make Vanessa's divorce one of the most expensive in American history. The tabloids had been feasting on the 6-month proceedings, dissecting every detail of the couple's 20-year marriage and speculating about the child Vanessa carried, Robert's first heir, conceived just before their separation. Before delivering my final ruling, Judge Simmons began, her authoritative voice silencing the room. I want to remind everyone present that this court... The heavy oak doors at the back of the courtroom burst open. A small figure darted past the security guards, clutching a crumpled manila envelope. The child, a girl no older than 7, wore a faded blue dress and scuffed sneakers, her determined expression at odds with her diminutive stature. "Wait!" she cried out, her voice clear and unwavering despite the commotion her entrance had caused. "You can't finish yet. I have something important." Security guards moved to intercept her, but Judge Simmons raised her hand. "Hold on!" There was something in the child's earnest demeanor that gave her pause. "Young lady, this is a private proceeding. You cannot simply..." "The baby isn't his," the girl announced, pointing directly at Robert. "It's his brother's baby. I have proof." The courtroom erupted. Vanessa's face drained of color as she instinctively placed a protective hand over her 6-month belly. Beside her, a man in an expensive suit shifted uncomfortably. Nathan Blackwood, Robert's younger brother and business partner of 15 years. "This is preposterous." Vanessa's attorney jumped to his feet. "For your honor, this is clearly some kind of stunt orchestrated by the defendant to delay..." "I live in Mr. Nathan's house," the girl continued, undeterred. "In the service quarters. My mom worked there before she went away. I heard them talking when they thought no one was listening." Judge Simmons studied the child's face, noting the unusual composure beneath the disheveled appearance. "Approach the bench, young lady." The girl walked forward, her sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. She placed the envelope on the judge's desk with trembling hands. "I found this when I went back to get my mom's jewelry box. It was hidden inside." Judge Simmons opened the envelope and examined its contents, her expression growing increasingly grave. Inside was a laboratory report dated 4 months prior, bearing official seals and signatures. The document indicated a paternity test, with an overwhelming probability that Nathan Blackwood was the father of Vanessa's unborn child. "This appears to be an authentic medical document," Judge Simmons announced, looking up sharply. "Ms. Blackwood, Mr. Nathan Blackwood, would either of you care to explain this?" Nathan stood abruptly. "This is absurd. The child is obviously lying. Who would believe?" "The document has authorized signatures and dates that align with the timeline of events," Judge Simmons interrupted, her voice cutting through his protestations. "Security, please separate Ms. Blackwood and Mr. Nathan Blackwood for preliminary questioning. This court will recess while we authenticate this evidence." Robert Blackwood had remained frozen throughout the exchange, his face a mask of disbelief as 20 years of marriage collapsed into something unrecognizable. For 2 decades, he had believed the doctors who told him his infertility was the reason they remained childless. The revelation struck him like a physical blow. Not only had his wife betrayed him, but his own brother had participated in the deception. As court officers escorted Vanessa and Nathan to separate rooms, Robert's gaze fell on the small girl standing alone in the center of the chaos she had created. She looked lost now that her mission was accomplished, her shoulders slumping with a weariness no child should possess. "Your Honor," Robert spoke for the first time, his voice rough with emotion. "May I have a word with the child?" Judge Simmons considered the request. "Briefly, Mr. Blackwood, and with a court officer present." Robert approached the girl slowly as one might a skittish animal. Up close he could see the signs of neglect, the too thin frame, the dark circles under intelligent eyes that had seen too much. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Lily," she replied, meeting his gaze directly. "Lily Parker." "Lily, where is your mother now?" The girl's eyes dropped to the floor. "She's gone. Heart problem. I've been staying in the service quarters since then. Nobody really notices me there." Robert felt a pang of sympathy, recognizing something of himself in this child who had been overlooked and underestimated. "Have you had lunch today, Lily?" She shook her head. "Would you like to get something to eat while the adults figure things out?" Lily looked up suspiciously, unused to kindness without conditions. "Are you mad at me for ruining your divorce?" A surprised laugh escaped Robert's lips, the first genuine laugh in months. "No, Lily. I think you just saved me from making a $500 million mistake." As Robert led Lily from the courtroom under the watchful eye of a court officer, he was unaware that this small, brave child would soon transform his life in ways far beyond the dramatic courtroom revelation. Behind them, Judge Simmons was already ordering a formal investigation into potential fraud, while reporters scrambled to file the breaking story that would dominate headlines by nightfall. Outside the courthouse, Robert noticed Lily shivering in the crisp autumn air. Without hesitation, he removed his cashmere coat and draped it over her shoulders. It swallowed her small frame, but she clutched it gratefully. "I know a place nearby with the best tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwiches in Manhattan," Robert said, guiding her toward his waiting car. "And then, if you'd like, we can talk about finding you somewhere safe to stay." Lily nodded, the weight of her secret finally lifted. "That sounds nice," she said softly, slipping her small hand into his as they walked away from the courthouse steps, leaving behind the flashing cameras and shouted questions from the gathering press. Neither could have imagined that this simple act of kindness, a meal shared between a disillusioned tycoon and a courageous orphan, would be the foundation upon which both their lives would be rebuilt, piece by piece, in the months to come. As Robert's driver opened the car door, Lily paused, looking up at the towering man whose life she had just irrevocably changed. "Mr. Blackwood, thank you for believing me. Not many grown-ups do." Robert felt something stir within him, a protective instinct he hadn't known he possessed. "Sometimes," he replied, helping her into the car, "it takes a child to show adults the truth they've been too blind to see." If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. 2 weeks after the courthouse revelation, Robert Blackwood stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Central Park penthouse, watching the first snowfall of the season dust the city in white. Behind him, Lily sat at the kitchen island, her legs swinging as she carefully wrote in a new journal, a gift from Robert after she'd mentioned liking to write down her thoughts, to keep them from getting too loud inside. The temporary custody arrangement had surprised everyone, including Robert himself. When it became clear that Lily had no living relatives and would otherwise enter the foster system, Robert had impulsively offered his home as a temporary placement. His attorney had warned against it. "The optics, Robert, think of the optics." But for once in his meticulously calculated life, Robert Blackwood wasn't thinking about public perception. "Finished your homework?" he asked, turning from the window. Lily nodded, closing her journal. "Math is easy. Reading takes longer." "You're doing great," Robert said, still marveling at how this small person had transformed his cavernous apartment from a showpiece into something resembling a home. Children's books were stacked on his Italian marble coffee table. A collection of colored pencils had taken up residence in what was once a purely decorative ceramic bowl, and somehow the changes felt right. The doorbell chimed and Robert's housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, answered it. A moment later, Thomas Harrington, Robert's longtime attorney and perhaps his only true friend, entered carrying a thick portfolio. "Sorry to intrude on your evening," Thomas said, nodding politely to Lily before turning to Robert. "But you need to see this immediately." Robert glanced at Lily. Mrs. Chen, would you mind helping Lily with her reading for a bit? Thomas and I need to talk business. Once they were alone in Robert's study, Thomas spread several documents across the desk, his usual composed demeanor visibly shaken. The forensic accountants found discrepancies, big ones. We're talking systematic embezzlement dating back at least 8 years. Robert sank into his chair. How much? Initial estimates put it around 40 million, but they're still digging. Shell companies, offshore accounts, falsified invoices. It's sophisticated. And Vanessa's fingerprints are all over it. Nathan? He facilitated, but Vanessa was the architect. She used her art gallery connections to launder significant portions through overvalued pieces and jewelry acquisitions. Thomas hesitated. Robert, the East Side Development Division is financially compromised. We're looking at potential layoffs, hundreds of people. Robert's jaw tightened. For 20 years, he had built Blackwood Developments on a foundation of quality construction and fair treatment of employees. His father, a construction worker who had fallen from unsafe scaffolding and spent the remainder of his life in a wheelchair, had instilled in him the importance of worker safety and dignity. The thought of hundreds of families losing their livelihoods because of his wife's betrayal was unacceptable. No layoffs, he said firmly. I'll personally cover any shortfall until we recover the stolen funds. Thomas looked skeptical. Even for you, that's a substantial commitment. Those people have families, mortgages, children in college. I won't punish them for my poor judgment in personal relationships. Robert stood and paced the room. What are our legal options? The DA's office is preparing charges. With the paternity test Lily found and now these financial discoveries, both Vanessa and Nathan are facing serious consequences. Thomas gathered the documents. Speaking of Lily, the social services assessment is scheduled for Monday. Robert nodded, his mind elsewhere. Throughout his career, he had faced countless business crises, but this felt different, more personal, more devastating. It wasn't just about money. It was about trust shattered and a future derailed. Robert, Thomas said gently, are you sure about this temporary guardianship? Taking in a child is challenging under normal circumstances, but with everything else going on. She saved me from making a catastrophic mistake, Robert interrupted. I would have paid that settlement without question. Who knows how much more they would have taken? He walked to the window, watching the snow fall more heavily now. Besides, she has nowhere else to go. After Thomas left, Robert returned to the kitchen to find Lily helping Mrs. Chen prepare dinner, standing on a step stool to reach the counter. The domestic scene struck him as both foreign and comforting. Is everything okay? Lily asked, her perceptiveness catching him off guard. You look worried. Just some business problems, Robert answered, not wanting to burden her. Nothing for you to worry about. Lily sprinkled cheese on the pasta bake with careful concentration. Is it about the money? I heard Mr. Nathan and Mrs. Vanessa talking about money sometimes. Robert exchanged glances with Mrs. Chen, who discreetly moved to the other side of the kitchen. What did you hear, Lily? They talked about moving money so you wouldn't find it. And about art being a good way to hide things. She looked up, suddenly concerned. Was I not supposed to say that? No, Lily, you did exactly right. Robert felt a surge of gratitude toward this remarkably observant child. Do you remember any specific details? Names of places or people they mentioned? Lily thought carefully. Mrs. Vanessa talked about islands a lot, and someone named Cayman who helped them. Robert nearly laughed despite the seriousness of the situation. The Cayman Islands. It's a place, not a person. He made a mental note to share this information with the forensic accountants. Over dinner, Robert observed Lily as she meticulously separated the different foods on her plate, ensuring nothing touched. These small habits and quirks were becoming familiar to him. Her preference for even numbers, her dislike of loud noises, the way she hummed softly when she felt anxious. Lily, he said carefully, someone from social services is coming to visit us on Monday. They need to make sure you're being taken care of properly. Her fork paused midway to her mouth. Are they going to take me away? No, not if I can help it. But they need to see that this is a good place for you to stay while we figure out a more permanent solution. I like it here, she said simply. You don't make me feel invisible. Her words hit Robert with unexpected force. How many people in his life had he made feel invisible over the years? Employees whose names he never bothered to learn, service staff he barely acknowledged, perhaps even Nathan living in his shadow, had his single-minded focus on empire building created the very resentment that led to his brother's betrayal. Later that evening, as Robert tucked Lily into bed in the guest room that was quickly becoming hers, now adorned with a nightlight and a stuffed elephant he'd impulsively purchased, she asked the question he'd been dreading. "Are you going to send me back to Mr. Nathan's house when all this is over?" "No," Robert said firmly. "Never. We'll find you somewhere safe, somewhere good." "Could I stay here?" The vulnerability in her voice made his heart constrict. Robert hesitated, acutely aware of the complexity of their situation. He was a 62-year-old workaholic in the middle of a scandalous divorce, hardly an ideal guardian for a traumatized child. And yet, in the 2 weeks since she'd entered his life, Lily had awakened something long dormant within him, a capacity for connection he'd thought lost forever. "I don't know what will happen yet," he answered honestly, "but I promise I'll make sure you're taken care of one way or another." As he turned to leave, Lily's small voice stopped him. "Mr. Robert, I'm sorry your brother and wife did those bad things to you." Robert turned back, struck by the simple compassion. "Thank you, Lily. I'm sorry you lost your mother and had to be so brave on your own." In the darkness of the hallway, Robert leaned against the wall, overwhelmed by emotions he couldn't name. For 20 years he had built towers of steel and glass, reshaping the city's skyline with his ambition. Now a 7-year-old girl was reshaping him, dismantling the walls he'd constructed around his heart with the same determination she'd shown bursting into that courtroom. Tomorrow, he would face the financial mess, the press speculation, the impending criminal charges against his wife and brother. But tonight, in the quiet of his transformed home, Robert Blackwood allowed himself to imagine a future different from any he had ever envisioned, one where success was measured not in acquisitions and assets, but in second chances and small moments of grace. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. Spring arrived in New York with a burst of renewal that mirrored the transformation taking place within the Blackwood penthouse. 4 months had passed since the courthouse revelation, and the temporary guardianship had stretched on as Lily's case wound through the bureaucratic labyrinth of family court. The social worker's initial skepticism had gradually given way to reluctant approval as she observed the unlikely bond forming between the real estate tycoon and the orphaned girl. "You've done well with the bedroom," Ms. Winters noted during her monthly visit, inspecting the space that had evolved from a sparse guest room to a child sanctuary, with bookshelves, a desk for homework, and walls painted a soft lavender at Lily's shy request. "Lily chose everything herself," Robert explained, watching as the child proudly showed off her organized collection of library books. "She has quite definite opinions on interior design. Perhaps a future architect?" Ms. Winters suggested with a smile. "I want to build things that help people," Lily declared, "like houses that don't fall down and have good windows." Robert felt a surge of pride at her words. In recent weeks, he had taken Lily to several construction sites, carefully supervised and equipped with a child-sized hard hat that had become her prized possession. The workers had initially been bemused by the presence of the small girl, asking detailed questions about foundation stability and safety protocols, but they'd quickly warmed to her earnest interest. After Ms. Winters departed with another cautiously positive report, Robert's phone rang with a call from Thomas. "The East Side audit is complete," his attorney reported. "It's worse than we thought. The substitution of substandard materials has compromised structural integrity in 3 of the residential developments. If we don't address it immediately, we're looking at potential catastrophic failures within 5 years." Robert felt the blood drain from his face. How did we miss this? Nathan oversaw those projects personally and approved all materials. The inspection certificates were falsified, bribes to mid-level officials. The good news, if you can call it that, is we caught it before anyone was hurt. "Start the remediation immediately," Robert ordered. "Full replacement of all compromised materials, whatever the cost. That's several $100 million, Robert. I don't care if it's $1 billion. I won't have families living in death traps that bear my name." He lowered his voice, aware of Lily reading nearby. "What's the status on asset recovery?" "The Cayman accounts Lily mentioned led us to Luxembourg. then to a series of art transactions through Vanessa's gallery. We've recovered about 30% so far, with promising leads on another 40. The DA is using the threat of additional charges to encourage cooperation. After ending the call, Robert sat heavily on the sofa, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Lily closed her book and climbed up beside him. "Are you sad?" she asked, studying his face with the intense focus that had become familiar. "Not sad exactly," Robert answered, finding it increasingly natural to share his thoughts with her. "Just disappointed in people I trusted." Lily nodded sagely. "My mom said you should trust people, but verify too. That means check if they're telling the truth." Robert smiled despite himself. "Your mother sounds like she was very wise." "She was," Lily confirmed. "She kept all our important papers in her special box and told me to always read contracts carefully." Her expression grew serious. "Do you think she'd be mad that I took her jewelry box and found that paper?" "No," Robert said firmly. "I think she'd be very proud of your courage. Speaking the truth when it's difficult is one of the bravest things a person can do." The next day, Robert took an unprecedented step. He called an all-staff meeting at Blackwood Development's headquarters. Traditionally, he addressed employees through layers of management, maintaining the distance of command. But as he stood before the assembled staff with Lily unexpectedly at his side, a childcare cancellation had forced a change in plans. He found himself taking a different approach. "Many of you have heard rumors about financial irregularities and structural concerns in our East Side developments," he began, scanning the anxious faces. "I'm here to tell you directly what happened and what we are going to do about it." Over the next hour, Robert outlined the embezzlement scheme, the materials substitution, and the comprehensive remediation plan. He announced that despite the financial impact, there would be no layoffs. Instead, the recovery efforts would create additional positions. Blackwood Developments was built on a promise of integrity, he concluded. "I failed to uphold that promise through insufficient oversight, and for that I apologize. But I give you my word that every compromised building will be made right, and every displaced resident will be taken care of during repairs." The transparent approach was unprecedented, and the response was immediate. Employees who had been bracing for pink slips instead volunteered for the remediation teams. Contractors offered discounted rates. Even competitors reached out with support, recognizing that a scandal of this magnitude could damage the entire industry's reputation. That evening, as Lily helped Robert sort through the flood of supportive emails and messages, she paused at one from a family living in one of the affected buildings. "They're not mad," she observed, sounding surprised. "They say thank you for telling the truth and fixing the problem." "People can be remarkably forgiving when you're honest about mistakes," Robert replied, the lesson as much for himself as for her. The press, initially scathing in their coverage of the Blackwood betrayal, gradually shifted tone as the remediation progressed and the financial recovery efforts yielded results. The New York Times ran a feature titled, "From Betrayal to Redemption: The Blackwood Rebuild," highlighting not just the structural repairs, but the personal transformation of a man once known primarily for his ruthless business acumen. The article noted the unlikely influence of a young girl, frequently seen at construction sites, asking pointed questions about family accommodation and playground safety. When asked about Lily, Robert had been uncharacteristically protective, declining to share details about their arrangement, but acknowledging that she had helped him see his responsibilities in a new light. What the press didn't capture were the quieter moments of that transformation. Robert learning to prepare Lily's favorite breakfast of perfectly symmetrical toast triangles. The standing Tuesday night ritual of building increasingly elaborate pillow forts. The gradual replacement of terse phone calls with bedtime stories. On a warm May afternoon, Robert received an unexpected visitor at his office. Grace Thompson, Lily's teacher, had requested a meeting to discuss the child's academic progress. "Lily is exceptionally bright," Ms. Thompson began, "particularly in mathematics and science, but I'm concerned about her social integration. She tends to isolate herself during free play." Robert nodded, familiar with Lily's reluctance to engage with peers. "She's been through significant trauma and upheaval. We're working with a child psychologist, but these things take time." "I understand that," the teacher said gently. But there's something specific I wanted to discuss. Our class is participating in the annual science fair next month, and Lily has expressed interest in entering a project on structural engineering. Most children work with their parents on these projects, and I think it could be a wonderful opportunity for her to... I'll clear my schedule, Robert interrupted without hesitation. Miss Thompson's surprise was evident. Mr. Blackwood, I know you're extremely busy. Not too busy for this, he said firmly. Later that week, Robert cancelled a long-standing board meeting to attend a parent-teacher conference. The following weekend, he postponed a trip to Chicago to help Lily construct a model skyscraper designed to withstand simulated earthquakes. The shift in priorities didn't go unnoticed by his executive team, but none dared question it directly, partly out of respect, and partly because the company was thriving under his newly focused leadership. The criminal case against Nathan and Vanessa progressed steadily, with both accepting plea deals in exchange for cooperation in recovering the embezzled funds. Nathan's statement, leaked to the press, revealed a portrait of long-simmering resentment. Living in Robert's shadow made me invisible. Every idea I proposed was dismissed or co-opted. Vanessa saw me when no one else did. Reading these words, Robert recognized an uncomfortable truth. Had he truly been so dismissive of his brother's contributions, so blind to his needs for recognition and respect? The introspection was uncomfortable but necessary, part of the ongoing reassessment of his life's values and choices. One evening, as Robert helped Lily with her science project, she suddenly asked, "Are Mr. Nathan and Mrs. Vanessa in jail?" Robert set down the glue gun he'd been using. "No, not exactly. They're restricted to their homes while the legal process continues." Lily considered this. "Are they sorry for what they did?" "I don't know," Robert answered honestly. "Sometimes people are sorry they got caught, not sorry for the hurt they caused." "My mom said everybody deserves a second chance if they're truly sorry," Lily observed, carefully aligning the miniature support beams. "Do you think they deserve a second chance?" The question caught Robert off guard. He'd been so focused on the betrayal and its consequences that he hadn't considered forgiveness. Looking at Lily's earnest face, he found himself reconsidering his hardened stance. "Maybe they do," he said slowly. "But earning back trust takes more than words. It takes consistent actions over time." Lily nodded, satisfied with this answer, and returned to her project. But the conversation lingered in Robert's mind, raising questions about redemption and the possibility of healing even the deepest wounds, questions that would take on new significance in the months to come. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. Summer arrived with the question of Lily's permanent placement looming larger. The temporary guardianship had been extended twice, but Ms. Winters made it clear during her June visit that the arrangement couldn't continue indefinitely. "The system requires a long-term solution," she explained. Watching Lily tend to the small herb garden they'd established on the penthouse terrace. "She needs stability, Mr. Blackwood." "She has stability here," Robert countered, more defensively than he'd intended. Over the past 6 months, Lily had become an integral part of his life, a presence he now couldn't imagine losing. "I don't disagree," Ms. Winters said carefully, "but we need to discuss permanent options. Foster placement, potential adoption candidates." "What if I adopted her?" The words escaped before Robert had fully processed the thought, surprising both of them. Ms. Winters' expression softened. "That's a significant commitment, Mr. Blackwood. Lily has experienced profound trauma and loss. She'll need consistent emotional support throughout her development. And forgive my bluntness, but you're a 62-year-old single man with a demanding career and no prior parenting experience." "I'm aware of the challenges," Robert replied, his resolve strengthening as he spoke. "But Lily and I have formed a connection that works for both of us. She's thriving here. Her teachers confirm it, her therapist confirms it. Why disrupt that?" "The court will consider various factors. Your age, your recent divorce, the ongoing legal proceedings involving your family members. It won't be a simple process." "Nothing worthwhile ever is," Robert said, watching as Lily carefully measured water for the basil plants. "I want to try. She deserves a permanent home, and I believe I can provide that." That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Robert sat in his study contemplating the magnitude of the decision before him. Adoption wasn't something he'd ever considered, not during his marriage to Vanessa, who had been clear about her disinterest in motherhood, a stance he now recognized as part of her deception, and certainly not as a newly single man in his 60s. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Lily stood in the doorway in her cloud-patterned pajamas, clutching her journal. "I couldn't sleep," she explained. "I heard you and Ms. Winters talking earlier. But what happens to me?" Robert patted the space beside him on the leather sofa. "You should have asked if you had questions, Lily. We've always been honest with each other, remember?" She nodded, settling beside him. "Are they going to make me leave?" "Not if I can help it," Robert assured her. "But we need to make a more permanent plan. The temporary arrangement was always meant to be, well, temporary." "I know what adoption is," Lily said quietly. "Some kids at school are adopted. It means you get to stay with a family forever." She looked up at him, vulnerability etched across her features. "Do you want to adopt me?" The directness of the question took Robert's breath away. In the corporate world, he was known for his decisive leadership, for making billion-dollar decisions without hesitation. Yet here, faced with a 7-year-old's simple question, he found himself momentarily speechless with the weight of responsibility. "I'm considering it very seriously," he answered carefully. "But it's a big decision for both of us. You would be stuck with a grumpy old man who sometimes works too much and doesn't always know how to be a good parent." A small smile lifted the corners of Lily's mouth. "You're not that grumpy. And you're learning?" Robert chuckled, touched by her assessment. "That I am. What do you think about the idea? Would you want that? To stay here permanently with me as your father?" Lily considered the question with characteristic thoughtfulness. "I think my mom would like you," she finally said. "She always said actions speak louder than words, and you do good actions even when they're hard." Robert felt his throat tighten with emotion. "That's one of the nicest things anyone has ever said to me, Lily. So, does that mean we can try the adoption thing?" "Yes," Robert said, the decision crystallizing in that moment. "We can try." The following weeks brought a flurry of activity as Robert initiated the formal adoption process. The legal team that had once focused exclusively on multi-million-dollar real estate transactions now dedicated significant resources to family court proceedings. Home studies were conducted, character references collected, and financial provisions arranged. Thomas expressed concern about the timing. The DA is still building cases against Nathan and Vanessa. This adoption pursuit could complicate matters. "They're separate issues," Robert insisted. "My brother and ex-wife's legal troubles have nothing to do with Lily's need for a permanent home." "The courts might not see it that way," Thomas warned. "Your judgment will be questioned, your recent history scrutinized. Then we'll address those concerns transparently," Robert replied. "I've made mistakes, certainly, but taking care of Lily isn't one of them." As the adoption proceedings progressed, Robert found himself increasingly drawn into the community of Lily's school. He attended the science fair where her earthquake-resistant skyscraper won first place, joined the parent volunteer committee for the summer reading program, and even hosted a career day presentation that evolved from a standard talk on real estate development to an interactive discussion on sustainable building practices. The other parents, initially intimidated by his reputation, gradually accepted him as simply Lily's guardian, a title he wore with unexpected pride. The transformation extended to Blackwood Developments, where employees noted the shift in company culture. The executive, who had once been known for his exacting standards and limited patience, now sought input from all levels, implemented family-friendly policies, and prioritized community impact alongside profitability. The remediation of the East Side properties proceeded ahead of schedule, with displaced residents housed in Blackwood-owned luxury apartments during construction, a solution suggested by Lily during a dinner conversation. "Why can't they stay in your empty buildings while you fix their homes?" she had asked, the simplicity of her logic cutting through layers of bureaucratic complexity. On a warm July afternoon, federal agents arrived at the penthouse with an update on the ongoing investigation. The evidence trail had expanded beyond financial fraud to reveal a network of bribes for building code violations and material substitutions that put hundreds of lives at risk. What had begun as embezzlement had evolved into a comprehensive criminal case that implicated not just Nathan and Vanessa, but several city officials and contractors. The good news, Agent Reynolds explained, is that we've recovered nearly 70% of the embezzled funds, with pathways to most of the remainder. Your decision to maintain workforce levels during remediation has been noted positively by the prosecutor's office. After the agents departed, Robert found Lily in her room, working on a detailed drawing of a playground design. The conversation with the FBI had reminded him of all she had been through, the loss of her mother, the neglect she had suffered, the courage she had shown in coming forward with the truth. "Lily," he said gently, "I want to thank you." She looked up, puzzled. "For what?" "For being brave enough to speak up that day in court. You did a difficult thing because it was right, not because it was easy. That's a rare quality." Lily set down her colored pencil. "My mom always said the truth matters most when it costs something to tell it." "Your mother was a remarkable woman," Robert said, realizing how much he wished he could have known the person who had raised such an extraordinary child. "I hope I can honor her memory by taking good care of you." "You are," Lily assured him. "And I'm taking care of you too, right?" That's what families do. The simple wisdom of her statement struck Robert profoundly. Throughout his life, he had approached relationships as transactions, what could be gained, leveraged, or protected. Even his marriage had ultimately revealed itself as a calculated arrangement rather than a true partnership. But this child had effortlessly redefined his understanding of family as mutual care, a reciprocal commitment to each other's well-being. As the adoption process continued, an unexpected complication arose. Vanessa, awaiting trial under house arrest, suffered a health crisis related to her pregnancy. High blood pressure and extreme stress led to premature labor, and despite medical intervention, she lost the baby. The medical report attributed the loss to a combination of underlying health conditions, hormonal manipulations, and psychological distress. The news reached Robert through Thomas, who suggested it might impact the legal proceedings. Vanessa's attorneys are positioning her as a victim of circumstances. They're highlighting the loss of the child as evidence of her suffering and pushing for leniency. Robert's initial reaction was cynicism, another manipulation, from a woman who had built their entire relationship on deception. But when he considered sharing the news with Lily, he found himself seeking a more compassionate perspective. "Someone I used to know lost their baby," he told her carefully during their evening walk in Central Park, uncertain how much a child her age could process about such matters. Lily considered this information solemnly. "That's very sad, even if the person did bad things." "Yes," Robert agreed, struck by the question. "Even then, my mom said everyone deserves kindness when they're hurting, even if they wouldn't do the same for you." The wisdom in her words stayed with Robert that night as he reviewed the latest adoption paperwork. His attorney had assured him that the process was proceeding well, with psychological evaluations supporting the bond between him and Lily and home studies confirming the stable, nurturing environment. Yet a nagging concern remained. Would his connection to the ongoing criminal cases somehow jeopardize their future together? As he closed the file, his gaze fell on a framed photograph on his desk. Lily at her science fair, beaming beside her earthquake-proof skyscraper. The image captured everything that had changed in his life. The pride he felt in her accomplishments, the joy in her growing confidence, the sense of purpose that transcended business success. Whatever obstacles lay ahead in the adoption process, Robert was determined to overcome them. Some foundations he had learned were worth fighting for. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. As autumn painted Central Park in fiery hues, the legal proceedings against Nathan and Vanessa reached a critical phase. Both had accepted plea agreements, and the details emerging from their testimony provided Robert with painful insights into his brother's psyche. "You need to see this," Thomas said, sliding a transcript across the conference table in Robert's office. "It's Nathan's full deposition. Parts of it, well, they might change how you view things." Robert scanned the document, his expression darkening as he absorbed his brother's words. Robert always cast the longest shadow, Nathan had testified. From childhood, he was the brilliant one, the driven one. "I spent my entire career watching my ideas get dismissed or appropriated. In board meetings, I'd suggest a direction, and Robert would shoot it down. 2 weeks later, he'd propose essentially the same concept, and everyone would applaud his genius. After a while, you become invisible even to yourself. Robert set down the transcript, a hollow feeling spreading in his chest. Had he truly been so dismissive? So blind to his brother's contributions? He thought back to those board meetings, trying to recall Nathan's suggestions. The uncomfortable truth was that he could barely remember them, not because they lacked merit, but because he had been too focused on his own vision to truly listen. "There's more," Thomas said quietly, about how the relationship with Vanessa developed. Nathan's testimony described a gradual evolution. Commiseration over feeling undervalued had grown into confidences, then an emotional connection, and finally a physical relationship. Vanessa, resentful of Robert's workaholic tendencies and what she perceived as emotional unavailability, had found in Nathan a willing audience for her frustrations. Together, they had cultivated a narrative of justified retribution. "We convinced ourselves we deserved more," Nathan had admitted. "That Robert owed us for living in his shadow, for enduring his neglect." The pregnancy was Vanessa's idea, a way to secure her financial future through the divorce settlement, while giving me the child Robert never wanted with her. The embezzlement scheme grew alongside our relationship, small diversions escalating to systematic fraud. Robert pushed the papers away, unable to continue. "I never saw any of this," he said, the weight of recognition heavy in his voice. "Not the resentment, not the affair, not the fraud. What does that say about me, Thomas?" "It says you're human," his friend replied. "We all have blind spots, especially with family." The revelations about Nathan's perspective left Robert contemplating his own role in the tragedy that had unfolded. He had always prided himself on his perceptiveness in business, his ability to read markets, anticipate trends, assess character. Yet he had fundamentally misread the two people closest to him. That evening, as Lily worked on her homework at the kitchen island, Robert found himself watching her with new appreciation for her emotional intelligence. This child, who had endured loss and neglect, somehow possessed an awareness of others that he had spent a lifetime failing to develop. "You're staring," Lily observed without looking up from her mathematics worksheet. "Is something on your face?" Robert smiled despite his somber mood. "No, just thinking about something I learned today." "About what?" "About listening. Really listening to people." He moved to sit beside her. "Lily, do you think I listen well? To you, I mean?" She considered the question with her typical thoroughness. "Most of the time. Better than other grown-ups. You ask real questions, not just pretend ones." "Pretend questions?" "You know, like when adults ask, 'How are you?' but don't really want to know the real answer. They just want you to say fine so they can talk about something else." Robert nodded, struck by the observation. "I've probably asked a lot of pretend questions in my life." "It's okay," Lily assured him, patting his hand with surprising maturity. "You're learning." The following week brought a development in the criminal case that stunned everyone involved. During a supervised visit with her attorney, Vanessa requested a meeting with the prosecutors to offer additional information. Information that implicated several high-level city officials in a broader corruption scheme. "She's trading up," Thomas explained when he called Robert with the news. "Offering bigger fish in exchange for a more lenient sentence." "What's her angle?" Robert asked, inherently suspicious of his ex-wife's motives. "That's the surprising part. She's not asking for much in return, just a supervised visit." "With whom?" "With Lily." The request caught Robert off guard. Throughout the proceedings, Vanessa had shown little interest in the child who had exposed her deception. Why now? After consulting with Lily's therapist, Robert reluctantly agreed to a brief supervised meeting. The therapist would be present, along with Ms. Winters from Social Services, and Robert insisted on being in the adjacent room with visual monitoring. On the day of the visit, Lily seemed calm but curious. "Why does Mrs. Vanessa want to see me?" she asked as they drove to the supervised visitation facility. "I'm not entirely sure," Robert answered honestly. "Sometimes when people are in trouble, they start thinking differently about their actions. Maybe she wants to apologize." "I'm not mad at her," Lily said thoughtfully. "Being mad takes too much energy." Once again, her wisdom beyond her years left Robert momentarily speechless. The meeting took place in a comfortably furnished room designed to feel non-threatening. Through the one-way glass, Robert watched as Vanessa entered. Her appearance markedly changed from the polished socialite he had known. Her designer clothes had been replaced by simple attire, her carefully maintained hairstyle grown out to reveal natural grey streaks. But it was the change in her demeanor that struck Robert most forcefully. The calculated confidence replaced by a subdued vulnerability. Lily sat quietly as Vanessa took the seat across from her. The therapist and Ms. Winters positioned discreetly nearby. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." "Lily," Vanessa began, her voice lacking its usual performative quality, "I wanted to apologize to you directly." Lily studied her with an appraising gaze that reminded Robert uncannily of his own boardroom assessment. "For what?" "For many things," Vanessa replied. "For not being kind to you when you lived in Nathan's house, for being angry when you brought the truth to light, and for not being the person I should have been." "You were going to have a baby," Lily said. "Mr. Robert told me you lost the baby." "I'm sorry that happened." Vanessa's composure faltered momentarily. "Thank you. That's very kind." She paused, seeming to gather herself. "The truth is, Lily, the entire pregnancy was part of a plan. I never really wanted to be a mother. I just wanted—" She stopped abruptly, perhaps realizing the inappropriateness of discussing such matters with a child. "You wanted money," Lily supplied matter-of-factly, "and to hurt Mr. Robert." Vanessa nodded, a flush of shame coloring her cheeks. "Yes, but losing the baby changed something in me. It made me realize the emptiness of everything I'd been pursuing. It's strange. I never wanted a child, yet losing one broke something open inside me that I didn't know was there." Through the glass, Robert watched the interaction with growing astonishment. The woman speaking seemed fundamentally different from the person he had married, or perhaps she was finally revealing a deeper authenticity that had always been obscured by ambition and performance. "I forgive you," Lily said simply. "Not so you feel better, but so I don't have to carry around being angry. That's what my mom taught me." Tears filled Vanessa's eyes. "Your mother sounds like she was a remarkable woman." "She was," Lily agreed. "She always said that forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's just choosing to put down the heavy thing you've been carrying." The metaphor, so clearly derived from a mother's wisdom passed to a daughter, hung in the air between them, a truth too profound to require further elaboration. As the visit concluded, Vanessa made no demands, asked for no ongoing contact, imposed no expectations. She simply thanked Lily for her time and expressed hope that she would find happiness with Robert. "He's a good man," Vanessa admitted. "I didn't appreciate that when it mattered." On the drive home, Lily was unusually quiet, processing the encounter in her methodical way. "Are you okay?" Robert asked, concerned that the meeting might have upset her. "I'm okay," she assured him. "Mrs. Vanessa seems different now." "People can change when they face the consequences of their actions," Robert said, thinking of his own transformation over the past months. "Sometimes losing everything makes you see what really matters." "She's not a monster," Lily observed, "just a sad person who made bad choices." The insight struck Robert forcefully. How easily humans categorized others as entirely good or irredeemably bad, when the truth was invariably more complex. He had spent months viewing Vanessa as a villain in his personal narrative, but perhaps she was simply a flawed individual whose poor choices had spiraled into devastating consequences. Not so different from himself in many ways, just with different manifestations of their shared human weaknesses. That night, after tucking Lily into bed, Robert found himself contemplating this more nuanced understanding of his ex-wife, and by extension of his brother. The transcript of Nathan's testimony had revealed a lifetime of perceived slights and dismissals, a pattern Robert had been entirely oblivious to while focused on his own ambitions. The reflection was interrupted by Thomas calling with an update. "The recovery team found another offshore account," he reported. "This one in Singapore, linked to a series of luxury property purchases. With this discovery, we should be able to recoup nearly 90% of the embezzled funds." "That's excellent news," Robert acknowledged. "How are the East Side remediations progressing?" "Ahead of schedule. The structural engineers are impressed with the quality of the replacements. Apparently, they exceed code requirements by substantial margins. Good. I want those buildings to outlast me. After ending the call, Robert walked to the window overlooking the city lights. The skyline had been his obsession for decades, each building a testament to his vision and determination. Yet now his proudest achievement wasn't visible on the horizon. It was sleeping down the hall in a room decorated with science posters and stuffed animals. The adoption hearing was scheduled for the following month. The home studies were complete, the psychological evaluations supportive, the financial provisions generous. Yet Robert couldn't shake the concern that his connection to the ongoing criminal cases might somehow derail their future together. The thought of losing Lily after all they had built together was unbearable. As if sensing his anxiety, Lily appeared in the doorway in her pajamas, clutching the journal she wrote in each night. I couldn't sleep, she explained. I was thinking about today, about seeing Vanessa. Lily nodded, coming to stand beside him at the window. And about families, how they're not always what you expect. Robert placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. No, they certainly aren't. I think, Lily said carefully, that maybe families are like your buildings. You have to check the foundation to make sure it's strong. And sometimes you have to fix things that are broken before they fall down. Robert smiled at the metaphor. That's very wise, Lily. And what do you think makes a strong foundation for a family? Without hesitation, she answered, telling the truth, being kind even when it's hard, and loving people not for what they can give you, but for who they are. As the city lights twinkled below them, Robert marveled at how this child, this remarkable, perceptive child, had fundamentally reconstructed his understanding of success and failure, of wealth and poverty, of what it meant to build something truly lasting in an impermanent world. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The day of the adoption hearing arrived with a crisp November chill. Robert adjusted his tie nervously as Lily, dressed in a navy blue dress she had selected for the occasion, carefully arranged her hair barrette for the 5th time. Are you nervous? He asked, recognizing his own anxiety mirrored in her meticulous preparations. A little, she admitted. What if the judge says no? Robert knelt to her level, meeting her eyes directly. Then we appeal. And we keep appealing until someone recognizes what I already know, that we belong together. The courthouse was familiar territory for both of them, though under vastly different circumstances than their first encounter. As they walked the marble hallway hand in hand, Robert couldn't help reflecting on the extraordinary journey that had brought them to this moment. From a dramatic courtroom confrontation to the cusp of becoming a legal family. Judge Eleanor Simmons, who had presided over that fateful divorce hearing, had requested to oversee the adoption proceedings, an unusual move that had initially concerned Robert's attorneys. But as she entered the courtroom now, her warm smile toward Lily suggested her interest was personal rather than punitive. These proceedings are typically straightforward, Judge Simmons began, but this case has several unique elements that require careful consideration. She summarized the unusual circumstances, the dramatic courtroom revelation, the temporary guardianship that had extended for nearly a year, the ongoing criminal cases against family members, and the significant age difference between Robert and Lily. The court must determine whether this adoption serves the best interests of the child, she continued. We have reviewed extensive documentation, including home studies, psychological evaluations, academic reports, and character references. But before I make my determination, I'd like to hear from Ms. Parker directly. Lily approached the bench with the same determined stride that had first brought her into Robert's life. Judge Simmons smiled encouragingly. Lily, I remember when you came into my courtroom almost a year ago. You were very brave that day. Can you tell me how you feel about being adopted by Mr. Blackwood? Lily glanced back at Robert before answering. When my mom had to go away, I thought I'd always be alone and invisible. At Mr. Nathan's house, nobody really saw me or heard me. But Mr. Robert, she paused, correcting herself. Dad listens to me. He helps me with my science projects and reads with me and teaches me about building things that last. He makes me feel safe. And you understand what adoption means? The judge asked gently. That Mr. Blackwood would legally become your father? It means we choose each other forever, Lily replied with simple certainty, even when things are hard. Judge Simmons nodded. visibly moved by the child's eloquence. "Thank you, Lily. You may return to your seat." She turned her attention to Robert. "Mr. Blackwood, when you first appeared in my courtroom, you were a very different man than the one I see before me today. Would you agree with that assessment?" "Without question, Your Honor," Robert answered. "Meeting Lily changed everything for me. She helped me recognize what truly matters, not buildings or business deals, but human connections. The kind of legacy that isn't measured in square footage or profit margins. Your professional reputation was built on calculated risks and strategic decisions," Judge Simmons observed. "Is that how you approach this adoption, as another acquisition?" The question was pointed, but Robert recognized its legitimacy. "No, Your Honor. There was nothing calculated about my decision to pursue adoption. In fact, it defies conventional logic. A 62-year-old workaholic suddenly becoming a father to a young child. But sometimes the most important decisions in life aren't logical or strategic. They're matters of the heart." Judge Simmons reviewed her notes thoughtfully. The court acknowledges the concerns raised regarding Mr. Blackwood's age, recent divorce, and family connections to ongoing criminal proceedings. However, these concerns must be balanced against the remarkable bond that has clearly formed between the petitioner and the child. She looked up, her expression softening. "The purpose of adoption law is not to find perfect parents. They don't exist. It's to secure loving, stable homes for children who need them. Based on the comprehensive evidence before me, I find that this adoption serves Lily's best interests." Robert felt a surge of emotion as the judge continued. "I hereby approve the petition for adoption. From this day forward, Lily Parker will legally be known as Lily Parker Blackwood, with Robert Blackwood as her father, with all attendant rights and responsibilities." The gavel struck, and Lily's hand found Robert's, squeezing tightly as tears of relief and joy streamed down both their faces. Outside the courthouse, they were greeted by a small gathering of well-wishers. Mrs. Chen, Ms. Winters, Lily's teacher, and several executives from Blackwood Developments, who had become unexpected allies in Robert's transformation. Thomas presented Lily with a bouquet of sunflowers, her favorite. "Congratulations, Lily Blackwood," he said, emphasizing her new legal name. She accepted the flowers with a shy smile. "Thank you for helping my dad with all the paperwork." He said there were a lot of big words. The celebratory lunch at Lily's favorite diner, a modest establishment that the old Robert would never have frequented, was filled with laughter and plans for the future. When asked what she wanted to do to celebrate, Lily surprised everyone with her request. "I want to visit the East Side buildings," she said, "to see how the fixing is going." So their adoption day included a tour of the remediation sites, where construction crews greeted Lily by name and proudly showed her the improvements. Reinforced support beams, properly installed insulation, updated safety systems. At each location, Robert noticed how workers responded to his daughter's questions with genuine respect rather than condescension, recognizing the sharp intelligence behind her childish phrasing. As they walked through a nearly completed apartment building, the foreman pulled Robert aside. "Your girl's got a future in this business," he said with admiration. "Never seen a kid her age ask about load-bearing calculations before." Robert smiled, pride warming his chest. "She sees things the rest of us miss." That evening, after a day of celebration, Robert helped Lily hang a framed copy of the adoption certificate in her room, alongside a photograph of her mother that they had recovered from Nathan's house during the investigation. "Do you think your mum would approve?" Robert asked carefully, watching as Lily arranged the frames with characteristic precision. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "She always said family is more than blood. It's who shows up for you every day." She traced her mother's face in the photograph. "I still miss her." "You always will," Robert acknowledged. "And that's okay. Loving her and remembering her is part of who you are, part of what makes you the extraordinary person I'm proud to call my daughter." Later that night, as Robert worked in his study, his phone rang with an unexpected call from the federal prosecutor handling Nathan and Vanessa's cases. "We've received a formal request from your brother," the prosecutor explained. "He's seeking a supervised visit with you." Robert's immediate instinct was refusal. The betrayal still felt raw, the damage Nathan had caused to the company, and potentially to countless residents, unforgivable. "What's his stated purpose?" Robert asked cautiously. Reconciliation, apparently. Both he and Ms. Blackwood have been model participants in the rehabilitation programs. Their cooperation has led to additional recoveries and exposed corruption within the building inspection department. After ending the call, Robert sat in silent contemplation. A year ago, he would have dismissed the request outright, filing it under manipulative tactics. But now, with Lily's influence reshaping his perspective on redemption and second chances, he found himself considering possibilities he would once have rejected. The sound of small footsteps interrupted his thoughts. Lily stood in the doorway in her pajamas, clutching a book. "It's story time," she reminded him of their nightly routine. As they settled into the comfortable chair in her room, Lily selected a book about a lighthouse keeper who saved a village during a storm. Halfway through the story, she interrupted with a question. "Dad, what happens to Mr. Nathan and Mrs. Vanessa when they finish their punishment?" Robert paused, considering how to address the complex reality in terms an 8-year-old could understand. They'll have to rebuild their lives, find jobs, places to live. It won't be easy. Lily nodded thoughtfully. Will they have friends to help them? The question pierced Robert's conscience. Nathan had no other family. Robert was his only brother. Without the Blackwood name and connections, what future awaited him after serving his sentence? "I don't know," he answered honestly. "They hurt a lot of people with their actions." "My mom said everyone needs at least one person who believes they can be better," Lily observed, "even when they make terrible mistakes." Robert studied his daughter's face, recognizing the gentle challenge in her words. "Are you suggesting I should forgive Nathan? After everything he did?" "Not forget," Lily clarified. "Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's just not letting the bad thing control you anymore." She yawned, the day's excitement catching up with her. "You don't have to decide tonight." As Robert tucked her in and turned out the light, he marveled at how naturally she had assumed the role of his moral compass, nudging him toward compassion when his instincts leaned toward self-protection and righteous anger. The next morning, after considerable reflection, Robert contacted the prosecutor to arrange a supervised meeting with Nathan. The visit would take place at a neutral facility with appropriate security measures. Robert was clear that he made no promises regarding forgiveness or future relationship, only that he would listen to what his brother had to say. 2 days later, Robert sat across from Nathan in a sparse visitation room. His brother looked diminished somehow, the confident swagger replaced by a hunched posture, the designer suits exchanged for simple clothes, the carefully maintained appearance giving way to premature gray. "Thank you for coming," Nathan began, his voice quieter than Robert remembered. "I didn't think you would." "I almost didn't," Robert admitted. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them, two men who had shared a childhood but grown into strangers, separated now by betrayal and its consequences. "I've been in therapy," Nathan finally continued. "Part of the rehabilitation program. It's helped me understand some things about myself, about why I did what I did, and why was that?" Robert asked, his tone neutral. Nathan met his gaze directly. "Jealousy, resentment, a lifetime of feeling invisible beside you. But that's not an excuse, it's just context. The choices were mine." He paused, gathering himself. "I'm sorry, Robert, for the affair with Vanessa, for the fraud, for the building code violations that could have hurt people, for all of it." Robert studied his brother's face, searching for the manipulation he would once have assumed underlaid any apology. Instead, he found only exhaustion and what appeared to be genuine remorse. "Why did you put the paternity test in Lily's mother's jewelry box?" Robert asked. The question that had lingered since the investigation revealed this detail. Nathan looked down at his hands. "I don't have a good answer for that. Part of me was disgusted with what we were doing. The fraud, the pregnancy deception. I think I wanted to be caught, to be stopped before it went too far." He looked up again. "I never imagined a child would find it, or have the courage to bring it forward." "She's remarkable," Robert said, unable to keep the pride from his voice. "I adopted her officially 2 days ago." Surprise registered on Nathan's face, followed by a complex emotion Robert couldn't quite identify. "That's unexpected, but fitting somehow. She saved you from making a terrible mistake. And now you're saving her." "She saved me in more ways than one," Robert corrected. not just from the divorce settlement, but from the person I was becoming, isolated, rigid, blind to what really matters. As the meeting concluded, Robert made no promises about future contact, but agreed to receive letters from Nathan, a small opening that represented neither full reconciliation nor complete rejection. It was, Lily would later observe, a door left slightly ajar rather than firmly closed. On the drive home, Robert reflected on the complex emotions the meeting had stirred, anger and hurt still present, but now accompanied by an unexpected capacity for empathy. He recognized in Nathan's words his own loneliness, his own tendency to measure worth through achievement rather than connection. Perhaps they were more alike than different, their shared wounds simply manifesting in divergent ways. That evening, as snow began to fall over the city, Robert and Lily sat on the terrace bundled in blankets, watching the transformation of the urban landscape into something pristine and possibility-filled. "Did you see Mr. Nathan?" Lily asked, her perceptiveness as acute as ever. "I did," Robert confirmed. "How did you know?" She shrugged. "You have your thinking face on. The one you get when you're trying to figure out a hard problem." Robert smiled, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "You know me too well, Lily Blackwood." "That's my job now," she replied with childish certainty. "And your job is to know me too." As the snow continued to fall, softening the harsh lines of the city below, Robert felt a sense of peace that had eluded him throughout his drive for success. The empire he had built would eventually fade. Buildings demolished, companies sold, fortunes dispersed. But this connection, this family they had built together from the most unlikely beginnings, this might endure in ways his towers of glass and steel never could. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. 5 years later, the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel glowed with soft lighting as guests mingled among displays showcasing Blackwood Development's community initiatives. The event, marking the 5th anniversary of the Blackwood Foundation for Ethical Building Practices, had drawn architects, engineers, city officials, and business leaders from across the country. At the center of it all stood Lily Blackwood, now 13, confidently explaining the scale model of an innovative playground design to the mayor of New York. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat braid, her gestures animated as she detailed the safety features and accessibility elements. "The cushioned surfaces exceed impact absorption requirements by 40%, she explained, "and the layout ensures sightlines for caregivers while preserving children's sense of adventure." Robert observed from a short distance away, pride swelling in his chest. In the 5 years since the adoption, Lily had blossomed from a cautious, observant child into a confident young person with definite opinions and remarkable capabilities. Her interest in engineering had deepened into genuine talent, nurtured by mentors Robert had connected her with, and her own relentless curiosity. "She's extraordinary," said a familiar voice beside him. Judge Eleanor Simmons, now retired, had joined him at the edge of the room. "You've done well with her, Robert." "She's done well with me," he corrected with a smile. "I'm still not entirely sure who adopted whom." The judge laughed, watching as Lily graciously accepted the mayor's impressed compliments. "The foundation is doing important work. The safety certification program has become the industry standard, I hear." Robert nodded. The Blackwood Foundation had emerged from the remediation efforts, institutionalizing the higher standards they had implemented and creating accountability mechanisms to prevent similar safety compromises in the future. What had begun as damage control had evolved into a genuine mission, one that Lily had helped shape with her persistent questions about families and safety. "Dad," Lily called, waving him over. "The mayor wants to hear about the Memorial Gardens project." As Robert joined them, explaining the initiative to create green spaces, honoring community members who had made significant contributions, he marveled at how naturally Lily had assumed the role of partner in these efforts. Her suggestions, initially offered hesitantly during dinner conversations, had gradually become integral to the company's community focus. The event continued with a formal program, including recognition of the employees who had remained with Blackwood Developments through the crisis and contributed to its ethical rebuilding. Robert had insisted on highlighting their loyalty, establishing a profit-sharing program, that distributed a significant portion of recovered funds as bonuses when the legal proceedings concluded. As the evening wound down, Robert noticed Lily slipping away from the main gathering toward a quieter corner of the ballroom. Following discreetly, he found her engaged in conversation with an unexpected guest, Vanessa. Elegantly but simply dressed, her manner subdued compared to the commanding presence she had once projected. Robert approached slowly, giving them both time to register his arrival. The relationship between Lily and Vanessa had evolved into something complex and measured. Not quite friendship, but a respectful connection built on mutual growth. Following her release, Vanessa had rebuilt her life with surprising humility, establishing a small art therapy program for women in transition that the Blackwood Foundation partially funded. "Robert," she greeted him with a nod. "Congratulations on the foundation's success. The certification program is making a genuine difference." "Thank you," he replied, the awkwardness between them never entirely absent, but diminished by time and shared purpose. "Your art therapy initiative is expanding, I hear." "Yes. We've received state funding to extend the program to 3 additional facilities." Vanessa's gaze shifted to Lily. "Your daughter was just telling me about her Science Academy scholarship. Quite an achievement." Pride flickered across Robert's face. "She'll be attending the weekend engineering program at MIT next semester. Youngest participant they've ever accepted." Lily rolled her eyes good-naturedly at the parental boasting. "Dad likes to mention that part." As Vanessa excused herself to speak with other guests, Robert noticed another figure observing from the periphery. Nathan, present on supervised release to attend the foundation event. The brothers' relationship had gradually evolved from cautious written correspondence to occasional in-person meetings, though always within clear boundaries. Following his release to a halfway house, Nathan had secured a position teaching business ethics at a community college, a role that leveraged his first-hand understanding of corporate malfeasance and its consequences. His letters to Robert had documented this journey of redemption, not seeking forgiveness, but demonstrating through consistent actions a genuine commitment to making amends. Robert guided Lily toward his brother, who straightened nervously at their approach. "Uncle Nathan," Lily greeted him with characteristic directness. "Did you see the memorial garden plans? I incorporated your suggestion about the reflecting pools." "I did," Nathan replied, visibly touched by her acknowledgement. "They're remarkable, Lily." The three stood in momentary silence, a family reconstructed from the ruins of betrayal, their connections tentatively rebuilt through years of small steps and careful boundaries. The reconciliation remained incomplete, the trust only partially restored, but the healing process continued with each interaction. As the event concluded, guests departed with commemorative saplings, Lily's idea symbolic of growth and renewal. Robert found himself on the terrace with Judge Simmons, watching the city lights against the night sky. "If someone had told me 5 years ago that my life would look like this," Robert mused, "I would have called them delusional." The judge smiled. "Life rarely follows the blueprints we design for it." "Lily taught me that," he acknowledged. "She showed me that the strongest structures are the ones that can adapt when the unexpected happens." Later that night, back in the penthouse that had transformed from a showpiece into a genuine home, Robert found Lily in the kitchen, making her ritual bedtime cup of chamomile tea. "Successful evening," he observed, joining her at the counter. "The mayor seemed impressed with your playground design." "He should be," Lily replied with the matter-of-fact confidence that still occasionally startled him. "It's better than anything currently in the city park system." Robert chuckled. "Humility, Lily. We've discussed this." "False modesty isn't honest," she countered, stirring honey into her tea with precise movements. "Mom always said to acknowledge your abilities without arrogance." She referred to her birth mother this way often, keeping her memory alive through small references and the framed photograph that still held a place of honor in her room. She was right, Robert conceded. As usual. Lily carried her tea to the living room, settling onto the sofa with the comfortable familiarity of home. "I've been thinking about something," she began, in the tone that always preceded a significant conversation. "That sounds dangerous," Robert teased, sitting beside her. She shot him a look that was pure teenage exasperation before continuing. "Remember when you took me to that courtroom? To see where we first met?" Robert nodded. On Lily's 12th birthday, at her request, they had visited the courthouse, where she had burst in with her crumpled envelope, forever changing both their lives. "You said something about how I saved you from making a $500 million mistake." She paused, formulating her thought. "But I've been calculating, and I think it was much bigger than that." "How so?" Robert asked, curious about where her analysis was leading. "Well, there was the money from the divorce settlement," she began, ticking off points on her fingers in her methodical way. "Then the embezzled funds that were recovered. Then the prevention of potential lawsuits if those buildings had failed. Then the value of the jobs that were saved. And then there's the foundation's impact, which is harder to quantify but definitely significant." Robert smiled at her characteristic precision. "You're right. The financial impact was enormous. But that's not the real calculation," Lily continued, her expression growing more serious. "I've been thinking about invisible value, the kind you can't put on a balance sheet." "Enlighten me," Robert prompted, recognizing the thoughtful look that preceded her most profound observations. "If I hadn't come into that courtroom that day, you might have won eventually anyway. Maybe someone else would have discovered the fraud. But you might have stayed the person you were before, focused on buildings instead of people, measuring success by the wrong metrics." The insight struck Robert forcefully. She was right, of course. The financial impact of that day had been substantial, but the personal transformation had been immeasurable. "And I would have ended up in foster care," Lily continued matter-of-factly. "Statistically, outcomes for children who enter the system at my age aren't optimal. Instead, I got opportunities, stability, education, a future. So really, we saved each other." Robert felt a tightness in his throat. "We did, didn't we?" Lily nodded, satisfied with the conclusion. "The most valuable things can't be calculated. That's what Mom meant when she talked about wealth that doesn't diminish when it's shared." The following morning brought another milestone, the official opening of the first memorial garden, dedicated to Sarah Parker, Lily's mother. The small green space nestled between Blackwood buildings featured a central sculpture of interlocking hands, symbolizing connection and support. As Robert and Lily stood before the plaque bearing Sarah's name and the inscription, "Truth Teller," "Courage Teacher," Robert reflected on the woman he had never met who had shaped his life so profoundly through her daughter. "She would have loved this," Lily said softly, arranging fresh flowers beneath the plaque. "She always said green spaces in cities were like breathing rooms for the soul." "She was a remarkable woman," Robert agreed. "To raise someone with your courage and clarity of vision, she must have been extraordinary." "She wasn't perfect," Lily acknowledged, with the balanced perspective she brought to everything. "She worked too hard, worried too much about money, and burned dinner a lot. But she was honest, even when it was difficult. She taught me that true strength isn't about power or control. It's about having the courage to do what's right, especially when it costs you something." As they walked through the garden, greeting community members who had gathered for the opening, Robert observed the easy way Lily connected with people of all ages and backgrounds, from elderly residents to young children, from construction workers to corporate executives. She moved between these worlds effortlessly, at home in all of them, carrying forward her mother's legacy of authentic engagement. Later that day, in his office overlooking the city he had helped shape, Robert found himself reflecting on the extraordinary journey of the past 5 years. On his desk sat a framed newspaper article, the first major piece about the courtroom revelation, headlined "Child's Courage Prevents Billion-Dollar Mistake." Beside it was a more recent photograph of Lily accepting a Youth Leadership Award, her confident smile so different from the determined but vulnerable child who had first entered his life. The intercom buzzed with his assistant's voice. "Mr. Blackwood, the board members are assembled for the quarterly meeting." "Thank you, Jessica. I'll be right there." As Robert gathered his materials, he smiled at one last photo on his desk, himself and Lily at a construction site, both in hard hats, her small hand in his as they surveyed a foundation being poured. The image captured everything that had changed in his life, his priorities, his perspective, his understanding of what constituted a lasting legacy. The board meeting proceeded efficiently, with Robert presenting the foundation's expanded initiatives and the company's continued commitment to ethical building practices. When he introduced the next agenda item, a proposed apprenticeship program for youth from underserved communities, he acknowledged its origins. This initiative grew from a question my daughter asked. Why do the people who build the buildings never get to live in them? Robert explained. It's a simple question, but one that challenges us to reconsider who benefits from development and how we might create more inclusive pathways to prosperity. As the meeting concluded, Thomas, still, Robert's trusted advisor and friend, remained behind. The old Robert Blackwood would never have proposed that apprenticeship program, he observed with a smile. You've come a long way. We all have, Robert acknowledged. 5 years ago, I measured success by the height of my buildings. Now I understand that what matters is their foundation, what they stand for, who they serve, how they contribute to the community around them. That evening, as Robert and Lily shared dinner on their terrace overlooking Central Park, they watched the sunset painting the city in golden light. The skyline was dotted with Blackwood buildings, but Robert's gaze was drawn to the small figure across the table. His most important project, his greatest legacy. I've been thinking about college, Lily announced, methodically separating her food into neat sections as she always did. I know it's still years away, but I'm considering architectural engineering with a focus on sustainable development. You'd be excellent at that, Robert affirmed, used to her long-range planning, though you have time to explore other interests too. I know, she agreed, but I like the idea of building things that last, things that matter. Like you do. Robert smiled, touched by her words. I think I finally learned what truly lasts, Lily. It isn't towers or developments or even foundations. It's the truth you speak, the courage you show, and the lives you touch along the way. As night fell over New York City, father and daughter remained on the terrace, planning future projects and possibilities. In the apartment that had once been merely a possession, and was now genuinely a home, the legacy of a courageous truth-teller lived on through her daughter, and through the man whose life had been rebuilt, foundation first, by the unlikely second chance they had given each other. The invisible child who had once lived in the shadows had stepped into the light, bringing with her a man who had built a skyline but forgotten how to build a life. Together, they had created something neither could have constructed alone, a family defined not by blood or legal documents, but by the daily choice to see each other clearly, to listen authentically, and to believe in the possibility of becoming better versions of themselves with each passing day. As Robert turned out the lights that night, he whispered a silent thank you to Sarah Parker for raising a daughter